Former Steeler Ramon Foster went on the Ramon Foster show with DK Pittsburgh Sports a couple of days ago and talked about a number of things. One of the big things that came up was Najee Harris, and his choice of words were very interesting. He spoke highly of Harris, obviously, but then went on a little bit of, maybe Najee Harris is going to hit a point where he doesn't really like the Steelers fans because the Steelers fans don't really like him. This seems to happen with a lot of players. Deontay Johnson's in that boat right now. They're half of the fan base isn't Kenny Pickett fans. It's everybody. It's Alex Highsmith's dealing with it. I mean, if you go through the comments on our YouTube page and any video about Alex Highsmith, half of the people are going to say sign him. Half of the people are going to say get him out of here. This guy's not worth the money. That's just, everybody is always in that boat. But the fact that Jaylen Warren has kind of bursted onto the scene a year ago and is expected to do a little bit more right now doesn't help the situation. Foster went on to say, those who say we want Najee gone, don't be upset if Najee says some stuff in public or Najee is a little bit more sinister about his attitude and how fans treat him, because all that will play a part in it too. Oh, y'all want me to go? Y'all want me going? Okay, I don't want to be here. That is my player side, because people are so quick to turn the page on a guy of quote unquote bad production. True? False? Let's start with this one. Do you think that the criticism of Najee Harris to this point is warranted?
No, not really at all. I mean, I don't know how you can really criticize a guy who has rushed for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, has truly carried. I get it. The offense hasn't been great over these past 2 years, but he's been one of the few things that has been consistent and that has worked, especially behind a patchwork offensive line. And he's really carried that, and especially last year, like playing through those 2 foot injuries, and still rushing for 1,000 yards. Like that was, I wouldn't call it heroic, but it was pretty tough stuff, and it was something that I thought every Steeler fan, they would tap into that, like, oh, Steel City tough, and like smash mouth football, like all that stuff would play into a positive narrative for Najee. So I don't know. I'm really shocked every time I see someone who doesn't appreciate Najee and doesn't appreciate what he does and what he can be. I think that's the other thing, is that this has not been an ideal situation for him. The offense has not been an ideal fit for him. And that there's just a lot of room for him to grow and a lot of room for him to get better. Like, he hasn't even scratched the surface of his potential yet, which should get you excited, I think.
Yes, agreed. It should definitely get you, like, that's my thing here, is like, it's not warranted at all. Hasn't been warranted. Last year, like you said, the foot injuries, not one, two Liz Frank sprains. 2. Imagine that, man. Like, I stubbed my toe. I'm out of commission for at least a couple of hours, maybe a full day. He's playing NFL football games. Do you ever like hear the analysis, or like, I'm a big podcast guy, as we know. So I listen to a lot of the New Heights podcast these days. I very much so enjoy it, but they always ask questions of like, would an average man be able to, like run for 5 yards in a game or get a first down or anything? And the immediate, like, it's not even a question. The immediate answer is no. It's like, you wouldn't have any opportunity to even get a yard in the NFL. And the fact that Najee Harris played 8 games on 2 Liz Frank sprains, which is, the bone in the middle of your foot is sprained, with a steel plate in his foot, and still rushed for 1,000 yards. Like, that's so impressive. And to do it with no offensive line the last 2 years, like, I think fans, just like you said, should look at this with a more optimistic approach. That people should not be in the point of it's time to get rid of Najee. It should be, at some point, you got to cut your losses, and you got to look at it like this. Maybe you didn't want a running back in the first round. Maybe you were super against a running back in the first round. Maybe in your head, you believe that you're right, that was a bad pick, a mistake by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, there's nothing you could do about it now. We are 3 years removed from that draft pick. At this point, there is nothing that's going to change. Najee Harris is the starting running back. Instead, maybe look at it like this. The Steelers have the best offensive line that they've had in the last 3 years. They have the best quarterback situation that they've had in the last 3 years. They have the best wide receiver situation that they've had in the last 3 years. They have the best tight end situation that they've had in the last 3 years. They've had the best defensive situation that they've had in the past 3 years. If this is going to be the year of Najee Harris, everything is lined up for it to be the year of Najee Harris. So why can't we just get excited? Like a year ago, people were excited. Najee Harris is going to be ridiculous. This is the Derrick Henry year, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out. Why can't we do that again? Why can't we sit around and talk about how this is going to be the Najee Harris year again in 2023? Because everything seems to be adding up. I just think like it's too early to say this guy is, I mean, because he's the farthest thing from a bust. You know, like
Right.
if he was rushing for 600 yards a season and, you know, he's putting up Chase Claypool numbers or something, like I'd get that, you know, at this point, it's like, oh, okay, this guy's not going to work out. But that's not even close to the case. Like this is a guy who, with very limited opportunity, has put up 1,000-yard season back to back, has made a Pro Bowl, you know, a 7 touchdown season, back to back seasons. It is not warranted. Let me ask this. How late into the season? No, I don't know how to word this. At what point does Najee start to get the criticism this year? You know what I mean? Like, what's the line of, okay, people are jumping on the Najee bandwagon or people are falling off the Najee bandwagon? Because it's probably going to happen soon.
Probably the first time they lose, I would have to imagine. He'll get caught up in all of that. I don't know. The Steelers fan base is just big enough that you will inevitably, like, no matter what, you will have people throughout you'll have a small percentage, but it'll feel like a large number of people who are hating on Najee and just, you know, they don't, you know, it's just inevitable with this many people that you are going to find someone who has that kind of an outlandish take. But yeah, it'll I think get more widespread the first time they lose, and if the offense does not kind of take the steps forward that we think it's going to, because I'm of the belief that it's all going to center around how they run the football. You know, any improvements that they make this year offensively are going to center around, okay, can we be one of the best rushing teams in the NFL?
Yes.
So if they're scoring 20 points a game, if they're not, you know, reaching that, you know, 25, 26, 27 points or whatever, it's probably going to be because Najee's not having some great games. Offensive line can't block, stuff like that. So I think if you come at, I think if it happens, it'll happen real early. And yes. I think, you know, whenever that is, it'll be the first time they lose that, you know,
what if they lose week 1?
Yeah, it'll happen. I mean, I don't know. Like,
I agree.
Because we've been, it hasn't just been us. Like, there have been other people kind of building the hype kind of slowly a little bit. They're heightened expectations now. And I think
yes,
it would be such a buzzkill to come into week 1 and just get smothered by the 49ers. Because I don't think they're going to get, like, you know, ridiculously outscored. Like, I don't think the 49ers are going to put up 40 points on them. So if they lose that game, it's going to be because they've only scored, you know, 19 points or whatever. And that would just be such a huge buzzkill. That would really kill everyone's mood. And I think everyone would get pissed off after that.
Do you think that Kenny Pickett takes the same amount of heat in that situation? You come out here and score 19 points. Say it's like a 14-17, 24-17 game. 49ers win. Offense looks bland. Is Kenny taking the same amount of slack that Najee's taking?
No, and I think neither of them would take as much heat as Matt Canada. Like in the
Matt Canada
distribute. Like I think it would go like Canada,
yes,
big gap, Najee,
yes,
Kenny. Kenny would be he'd be up there with Najee, but there'd be a pretty significant gap. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, the heat on Matt Canada. Like, what's the number there? How many points do the Steelers have to score in week 1 for Matt Canada, for the booze of Matt Canada not to be heard in week 2?
Probably, like, I don't know. 49ers are good, so 25 would maybe be the line.
25. That's a good number. I thought you were going to be like 21. Like, nah, the 49ers are good, definitely, but it does not, there's no excuse there for, it's got to be 25 minimum.
Yeah, it's got to be. You got to score like 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yes.
However you do it,
3 touchdowns.
However you do it,
and they have to be offensive touchdowns. You have to be. No, it has to be. Offense has to score 3 touchdowns, or it could be. We'll say 25 points. Defense scores a touchdown. Steelers win. But But if the
Yeah.
Steelers lose, it's got to be 3 offensive
Oh, yeah, yeah,
touchdowns.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense. I can get behind that.
Yeah, because otherwise, because you're back to back, like you're coming back home against the Browns in week 2. That's Mitch Trubisky got booed, man. Mitch Trubisky got booed, and he didn't even deserve to get booed.
Right.
In game two at home, Mitch Trubisky got booed, and the Matt Canada screams will be, whoo, it'd be
you might
rough
see
one.
what there was a Pitt game last year. I forget which one it was, but Pitt fans didn't like their offensive coordinator either last year.
Yes.
And I remember one time in the middle of a game, I'm sitting in the press box. We're right next to the coach's box. So it's like there's a wall on the other side and on the other side of the coaches. And Frank Signetti is the offensive coordinator for Pitt, sits up in the booth, and I see this one guy in the section right in front of the coach's box. He just stands up after, like a 3 and out. He turns around. He just gives the coach's box the double bird, and then he goes and sits back down. It was so funny. He was the only one who did. It was just one guy he was just so fed up. It was so funny.
That's what it could happen. I don't know where the coach's box got to be close to. If you're a Steelers fan, you can find it. You just take a little scope of the stadium. Right. You'll find it. You'll be. He's up there every game, every single game. Those boos will be very loud. But I agree. I think that it'll start in week 1 with the criticism for Najee. If it doesn't start, I think it's very warranted for him to be just as angry and upset with the Pittsburgh Steelers fans as they might be for him, because, just like we said, man, it's not like at some point you have to look at it realistically. And this guy has had no opportunity. If you were given no opportunity at your job and then everybody got mad at you for not doing that job right, you'd come home every single day and complain about that job every single day and complain about how you're not given the right, circumstances to succeed. And it's the same thing. It is the same thing for Najee Harris.